What's up, everybody? Let me know if you can hear me. Warm hello and a heartfelt thank you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here with me today. Folks, this is going to be part of the quick market update series, of course, on my YouTube channel at Cheds Trading. Hopefully you've been there before. I teach professional technical analysis, Japanese candlestick theory, and classical charting. I try to take the complex, I try to take the, just a little bit too fancy for you, and I try to make it more simple. And so I've got a lot of great educational stuff for you. Start with the Masterclass tutorial playlist. Check out the books. I published 4 books. My newest book is available now on Amazon. The Trading Journal. The reviews are in and people love it. It's why you should use a trading journal, how to fill one out, what goes into a trading journal, when those trading ideas fail, and basically how to learn from your mistakes. It's critically important that you continue to grow and learn as a trader. And I'm just checking here one thing, make sure everything is working out. And if you're not learning from your mistakes, then you're going to be, you're going to be suffering. So let's try to fix that. And that's why we're here. Since my new book is out, right? The Trading Journal, I'm actually making my last book completely free, the Trading Quotes book. I know a lot of you, that's funny, Dixon. I know a lot of you, have seen this book already. And, I'm making this companion to the book. So I'm essentially I'm reading the entire book for free, 1 week at a time. And I'm really proud of this book. And I want to make my stuff free. Most of what I do is free. So check out that new version, that's coming out of my 3rd book. Now, of course, I'm a founding analyst at Bitcoin Live. I do a twice a week full market report there. I've been doing that for like 7 years, essentially. And it's every Wednesday and Sunday night. I do not skip updates. I haven't missed an update in 6 years. You should know right now we have our 7th anniversary week sale. So essentially right now you can join and get 3 months membership for only $97, which is kind of crazy, Bitcoin or credit card. And this is a wonderful team of world-class analysts. I'm really proud to be part of it. Hopefully you will consider checking that out. I'm, of course, Big Cheds on Twitter. That's where you know me. And if you're looking for an exchange, folks, check out Bing X, my favorite exchange. So you folks are here for Bitcoin, you're here for Ethereum, you're here for Solana, and I want to talk about that stuff. And, while we're doing that, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your feedback. I'd love to hear, what you folks think. So if you're watching me on Twitter, thanks for hanging out. You can just jump right over to YouTube. And as soon as you subscribe, you can pop a message into the chat room. I already see the chat room filling up. What's up, Dixon, Influence? Psalm, Jeremy, Matej, Marcus, and Pulse. Good to see you folks, and a few more as the chat room's filling up, folks. I'd love to have you join the chat here on YouTube so I can hear your questions. I'm going to talk about Bitcoin. I'll kind of set the table, of course. And of course, again, folks, let me know if you can hear me okay. I'm just experimenting with setups, make sure the audio is working out. So what's Bitcoin doing here on the daily chart? We got a little bit of volatility. Should we be worried? Well, why worried? What does that mean? Right now, it's an incredibly strong trend. We have the price above a rising EMA 8 on the weekly. What's an EMA 8? Okay, what's an EMA? EMA is an exponential moving average. It means the most recent candle has more price weighting, right? So it's usually used for short-term moving averages like a 12 and a 26 or an 8, 21, 34 Fibonacci numbers. I don't use the 21 because I use the middle Bollinger, which is the SMA 20, an equally weighted 20-period moving average. So an EMA 8 is a short-term moving average. I refer to it as primary uptrend support. I go over this in the Masterclass tutorial playlist in great detail. And you can look for things like an 834 cross, which we didn't have here, because the trend has been so strong. So on the weekly, it's just price above a rising EMA 8. The price is in essentially primary uptrend mode here on the weekly chart. And we're consolidating. We're consolidating following this inside bar, okay? We saw this candle here. I say me, I say you, through my work here, YouTube and Bitcoin Live. And we've talked about this inside bar, and it hinted at that consolidation was coming. So we shouldn't be surprised so far that we have these doji, these sideways candles. after that inside bar. And it's actually a good sign, in my view, that you've given up, you meaning Bitcoin, has given up pretty much very few of its gains in the last like 3 or 4 weeks while it's consolidating. And as the price consolidates, all these oscillators are catching up, and there's a rebalancing, a short-term rebalancing of supply and demand. And you think about like you have an advance, right? It's like a flagpole, and you watch it, and sometimes it will drift all the way back down to the midpoint. Sometimes it comes all the way back down, and you lose the entire gains of the move. But the best case scenario is high and tight, consolidating near the range of the peak, ideally in the top third of the move, and that's what we have so far. We'll continue to watch that. But just marking up the trend in the weekly is still quite constructive. There are no warning signs. We're watching things on lower time frames to judge, again, the strengthening or the weakening of the trend. And that's all you can really use technical analysis for. It's just, looking for the strengthening and the weakening of a trend, and to position yourself ultimately to be trading with the trend. And that's the idea, to buy a dip in an uptrend, to sell a rip in a downtrend. Right. So on the daily chart, we're looking at this price versus SMA 50. SMA, I throw out these terms, and hopefully I'm not confusing people, or I'm not sounding too wordy. But again, SMA is a simple moving average. It just means equally weighted. 50, 20, and 200 are what I use. Again, explained in the Masterclass tutorial playlist. You can see my settings here. And here in the daily chart, we've been looking at the price versus SMA 50. Right. So we just looked at the weekly price in relation to the EMA 8. If you look at the daily chart here, price versus EMA 8. If you look at the daily chart, the price has been grinding higher versus the EMA 8, and then we started to consolidate. And so as the daily chart started to lose, the EMA 8 had that first MA 20 tag, that hinted at, okay, we're consolidating. And so you can see consolidation on the weekly expressed here, a little bit more zoomed in, right, on the daily chart with this tightening range. Thus far, a range of a higher low, a lower high. We're waiting to see how that plays out. And price versus SMA 50. I put out a tweet on, I guess you can still call it a tweet or an X or whatever you want to call it. But I put out a tweet here. Boom. And I let you know basically on June 12th, hey folks, price is back to the DMA 20 where it last held, right? The orange line, simple moving average. 50 period, and the price bounced pretty nicely off of it. We had a nice initial response right off of the SMA 50. We see the hammer candle here. We see that response. It's a hammer candle, which is a small real body with a lower shadow at least twice the size of the real body. Very much hammer candle off the SMA 50 and, close to the lower Bollinger Band. It's a pretty good spot for that, right? And we've had the decent follow through in that, kind of a bounce into a lower high, but it's still consolidating. So we're noting, we're observing the price versus SMA 50. And if we're looking for further signs of consolidation and potentially, short-term trend weakening, we're going to be watching to see if the price violates the MA 50 here in the daily, okay, the SMA 50. If it closes below it, no evidence of that just yet. Okay, should it start to lose it, it's really not the end of the world, because if you look at what happened here, we had a deeper consolidation, set up many long entries, specifically on the recapture of 81K, descending supply trend break, 88.5. And this itself here was a deeper drop to the weekly MA 50, not just the daily MA 50, but the weekly MA 50, which has been incredibly important. Okay, that's the line in the sand, that's the sentinel. That is, the point of no return, and not necessarily the point of no return, but that's a very big, important level for Bitcoin in the higher time frame. And the reason for that is we can go all the way back. And by the way, I hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for hanging out with me here today. I really appreciate you joining the conversation. Go to my YouTube and join the chat. If you go back to 2021, and for those folks who were there with me, thank you. It's great to have you with the upthrust. And here in the weekly, we noticed the first signs of trend weakening here on the weekly with the closes below the weekly MA 50. Weekly MA 50 had held, the weekly MA 50 had held. It had been an important level for the strength of the trend, which is why back here, I talked about it quite a bit in my work when I was lecturing, and as well back here. So we had the deeper drop on the daily led to the weekly consolidation MA 50. So We're watching that on the daily to see if there's further signs of trend consolidation, and that might open up the weekly MA50. But still, generally speaking, you want to be. It's important to observe. It's important to observe those moving averages and to understand what they're doing. But you still want to be marking out clean levels to buy dips, clean levels to work within the structure that the price provides for you. So, for example, the 100K level. And if we zoom in a little bit, right? Jabril says hello. What's up, Jabril? What's up, Caroline, Anonymous, Ryan? Nice to see you folks. If you go back, a lot of talk about the head and shoulders. What do you do with the head and shoulders, okay? Well, you can draw a head and shoulders, and that's a kind of a funky looking one, still valid. But what you want to focus on is where it confirms the neck base, where it invalidates on the right shoulder. This one had an invalidation, failed to hold in the throwback, but before it even did that, it set the neck base line. And so now we have price response at the neck base at 100K, and that's a buy the dip level. It's support until proven otherwise. So you could, for example, foresee a scenario with a tightening range and then some type of a temporary bear break, which would be a fake out, and then a recapture and go, and price continuing with the trend, which is up in the high time frames. That's one example, and that of a potential scenario. But why that's important is because it plays in with the level you're clearly watching. So even though we're watching 50 in the daily, we're watching 50 in the weekly, 100K is an important level to watch. Should a 100K level fail, 96K cluster, and then of course that very important 88.5K level, which was essentially the two-level filter breakout. What's a two-level filter? You observe a descending trend of supply. Folks, most of you kind of think of it as a downtrend line. For me, there's no line. There's just a trend of more aggressive sellers. Price is pushing down. And you don't take the break on just the downtrend line or the descending supply trend, because you can follow it all the way down. You wait for the lower high break. That's the second level filter. I talk about that a lot in the Trading Journal. And I allude to it in Trading Wisdom Part 1, but I essentially really spell it out in the Trading Journal. And so we have the two-level filter at 88.5K as a kind of, best case scenario for a long-term sustained run actually might be a drop to 88.5, lining up with confluence with, right, that SMA 50. So maybe we get some type of a deep drop, or even ideally quick, to the SMA 50 and go, and that could set up for a big time leg higher. But it's just another scenario. You don't necessarily want to try to sit around and predict what the price is going to do in the next couple days, in the next few days, right? There's no real way to know, and it's kind of a fool's errand to do that, right? And what you more so want to be doing is positioning yourself to take advantage of volatility, understand what it means when the price interacts with the key level, in this case 100K, in this case 96K, and then 88.5K zone. The 100K, 107K overhead level hasn't been that useful recently, as the price has been chopping through it. So you have somewhat of an ill-defined range peak, but you have much better defined support levels at this point. Before I rush over to Ethereum, I got a big list of altcoins that I'm happy to talk about. I'd love to hear from you folks in the chat room. Anything that you want to talk about, any of your chart requests, just let me know. Let me know. And by the way, folks, I'm going to do a Spaces later today. I did one yesterday, but Twitter rugged me, and I guess the audio was kind of going in and out. But then when you listen to it on a replay, it was fine. So I'm going to do another one. Hopefully it works out, and that's going to be probably in a couple hours. So I'd love to hear you join as well. So Influence says, can we check SOL? I'm definitely going to check SOL. Sad to report, there really isn't much to talk about, essentially because there's plenty to talk about, but nothing's really changed. The price is still oscillating. The price is still bouncing in between major demand zone circa 140, 145, and the overhead level 180, 185. And if you remember, on the recapture of 125, and then especially on the flip of 145, that 180 level was front and center. That had been my target, a lot of people's target, and the price made it all the way there. And we're just kind of bouncing in between the two and looking to see if the price can rejoin the high time frame trend. On a weekly time frame, SOL still looks quite good. Sol still looks quite good. You see the importance of recapturing this 125 level with the false breakdown illustrated here, in the weekly time frame. But the daily time frame is a little bit frustrating, a little bit boring. You ask, Influence, you want me to talk about Sol? There's not much to really update you on. It's kind of been the same technical picture here, for weeks now, unfortunately. I can hear you. Good. So somebody asked me about Hype. Let's take a look at Hype. It's been a very popular one. For me, trading, it's not available like in major exchanges, so I don't necessarily always cover it. But undeniably, it's been a big market player, despite this lack of history. There's an uptrend. The question, I don't know if there is necessarily a question, but maybe we get that 37.5 tag. Sure. 37.5 is kind of an aggressive local throwback level where you have the wick from June 13th. You have the peak from June 3rd. I think there's a little bit more evidence of a demand zone right around 31.32. But given the strength thus far, and especially the price behavior with the, let me clean it up, the price behavior with the middle Bollinger Band, right, the SMA 20, should the price drop back to the SMA 20 and lining up with that 37.5 range roughly, it's a reasonable spot to define your risk. It's a thesis that you could explain to someone else, and it makes sense. So we're certainly watching that level. A little low time frame drop. I don't know on Bitcoin. I don't know that there's much value really dropping lower. We can peak around 4 hour, 1 hour, even especially in the 4 hour. You see that there's daily demand in this zone right around 100, 101K. So we'll see if it gets there for sure. Let's continue with the chat room. See how everybody's doing. You taking vitamin E? Yes. I'm actually not taking vitamin E. I take vitamin D. It's supposed to be pretty good for you. So I take some vitamin D. And as you folks know, THC and CBD keeps the doctor away. Let's continue on here. Could you use Bollinger Bands, but instead of the 20 being an SMA, can it be an EMA? I think that's probably possible. I mean, it's definitely going to be possible. I've never actually done that. But here, you could very much go into, what we have here is EMA 8 rather. If you take the Bollinger Bands, and you could probably go right into the length of the setting, and I don't know that you can change to EMA. So I'm sure there might be some type of indicator, but the way it's built is that 20 is an SMA for the Bollinger Bands. It's a very interesting question. I would assume there might be some way to hack it, map hack it, or some other like indicator, but I don't know just quickly offhand, especially during the stream, that I'd be able to show you how to change the 20 to an SMA. Primal, what's up, man? It's good to hear from you, and congratulations again on being a new father. Primal says, Cheds, what do you think about the bull flag and pennant forming in the BTC daily? What do I think about the bull flag? Well, I've already discussed Bitcoin quite a bit, and we see, and here's the thing, whether or not you call it a pennant or flag, whatever you want to call it, a flag, or some type of a pennant, it doesn't necessarily matter what you call something. What you want to recognize is what you're looking at. You're looking at consolidation after an advance. Generally will lead to bullish continuation. So your first posture is to think, okay, we're gonna, break out of this range. That's your best bet, which is whatever, 60% or some percentage, just based on the fact that trends tend to continue, based on the broader trend, the weekly, and all that. Again, I talked about how we have the tightening range, and I look at scenarios. One potential scenario might be a quick fake breakdown retest of 100K and go, maybe even a bounce into the top of the range. This has a consolidation look. And again, when you're dropping to a low time frame, which is a daily's low time frame, and below are all low time frames, you want to understand the context in the weekly picture. And the weekly picture still is quite bullish. It's consolidation that we expected after the inside bar. So none of this is unexpected. Everything thus far is quite logical and quite orderly. Cheds, what's your favorite chart right now? What's up, Gray Market? Good to see you, man. What's my favorite chart? I'll just quickly scroll through. I mean, BNB's been really bullish, holding above 640, but probably TRX has been like the sleeper chart. TRX is super grinding higher, price with MA200, grinding. Look at this trend. Look at this beautiful trend now for, 2.5 years. That's remarkable. So probably I would say TRX is one of my favorite looking charts. I see some of the trading type tweets I put out recently. We had some setups like QNT. It's starting to fail. Like QNT had a throwback to like $100 range. That looks to be failing actually. And we had Zcash throwing back that 45 range. Looking like an early failure. So it's interesting to see that there has been a little bit of damage done on some of these charts. But overall, Bitcoin still looks quite strong, and it makes sense because it's been a Bitcoin-dominated type of market for quite a while. Pardon me, been watching to see if and when Ethereum will start to outperform. Here we see kind of a vanilla consolidation after a bounce, likely to continue again with the trend. ETH, BTC, I need to see much higher before I think this trend of underperformance versus Bitcoin is going to turn around. The weekly chart has been quite interesting, my friends, quite interesting. If you're watching me on Twitter, thank you. Appreciate you folks. You can come and hang out on the YouTube channel and you can join the chat room. You hit subscribe and you can just drop a message in the chat. Folks, this is like at the Bitcoin Live 7th anniversary sale. 3 months for only $97. Make sure you check that out. That's why I'm going to be streaming every day this week. I normally just stream twice a week, but I'm going to be extra active this week. The weekly chart's been very interesting. You don't often see this type of a candle body structure where you have the large advance, nearly a Maribozu, which is essentially just a full-on big green candle or full-on, big red candle, depending on it's a bullish or bearish Maribozu. Even with a little bit of a wick, you could call this a Maribozu. And then these sideways bodies. And normally when you see this, you think of what you might think of as a BART, right? Bart Simpson. It's actually called a tower top. So I've been tweeting out ever since here that it looks like it's setting up for a tower top. I've called it pre-tower. And I've taken some flack. I very well may be wrong. Not that I'm wrong, because it does look like a pre-tower, but it very well may turn out that it does not put in a tower top, and it bullishly breaks from it. It attempted to do that here on this last weekly candle, but dropped right back into the range. So this shows you that bulls are having trouble sustaining the advance. This shows what I've been describing in my work recently as generally trendless behavior. There's no real trend on the daily, certainly flat. All the moving averages are flat. We're essentially chopping around sideways. There's no real trend here on the daily, which makes it not a great vehicle for trading right now. For this chart to offer you some type of opportunity, for this chart to give you, some type of a setup, something to work with, you're really going to need to see it drop back to that 2150 range. And that's, for me, the way I'm continuing to approach that. E4404 says, can you check out Tao? Sure. And thank you for the super chat. I don't need super chats. Folks, just join. Join the chat. Say what's up. Yeah, Tao had been, what do I think about Tao? I mean, right shoulder inverted, head and shoulders, but where's it going to be? I mean, we're kind of drooping here. We're losing support. Where's our higher lows? I think you have to say, and I'm being a little bit loose here with the lines and all that. So I'll try to be precise. I think you for sure want to pare back your risk. You for sure want to be much more cautious if 340 range does not hold. For me, initially, I wanted to see the price hold at 375, 380 range. So we're already seeing some evidence of weakening bullish momentum here on Tao. So if you like Tao, you love it, you're long, you like the project, you like the whatever they do, I honestly don't care. I just trade the chart. I let I don't spend a lot of time figuring out what things are, what they might be. I let the price tell me, and I kind of just trade the chart. If it can't hold here around 340, 330, I think you really need to move on or go play something else, or at least very certainly pare back some risk if you are long. You need to protect your capital. Anytime you're long in something, or any time you're in really any trade where you're risking your hard-earned money, it needs to be with an idea that you can defend, an idea that has a stop loss. The stop loss is based on the invalidation of the trading idea. For example, were you to take a long here, which isn't a great idea because it's a downtrend, But if you were taking it along on the retest of 330, 340, you can't hold below 325, 330 because the whole idea is that it's retesting this demand level, right? And if that fails, your idea was wrong. So you got to be precise. Let's see, Velo, not Velodrome. Yeah, let's check out your chart request, folks. I'm happy. Velo, not Velodrome. Okay. Velo USD, maybe this will have some history. Let's take a little look at Velo. Not a lot of history here. Let's try something else, folks. I'm getting old, so let's see. Let's try Velo. Let's go to the crypto. That should help. That'd be a good start. So Velo there. Let's try it. Bybit and Qcoin. Okay, not Velodrome. All right. Here we go. We got a little bit of price history because I see some old markings for me. It means I've looked at this before. And let's take a quick little look-see. All right, what do we think about Velo here on Tether? It's a choppy look on the daily. And again, I want to harp on this. You want to step back. And you want to step back and go to the weekly often and get a sense of what trend you're working in. So we see a downtrend. How do I know this is a downtrend? Let me pause for just a second and you can answer in the chat room. Chat, how do I know this is a downtrend, right? What is it I'm looking for? Okay, take a second. It's because it's priced below a falling MA200. This is the definition of a downtrend in classical charting. The simple moving average is the trend. Price below a falling MA200 is a downtrend. Price above a rising MA200 is an uptrend. It's a downtrend. So we know we're working within a downtrend here, not EMA 200. It's actually MA, Sleepy Shaman, not EMA. For longer term moving averages, you want to use an SMA or equally weighted. The whole idea of an EMA, right? We talked about the weekly EMA 8. The whole idea of an EMA is that it's more sensitive to price. So when you use it for a shorter term moving average, use it as support and kind of marking up the trend. When you get to a longer term moving average, like a 50, you could still use an EMA for a 50. For me, that's a little bit borderline, but it makes no sense on the 200. You want it to be a bigger deal and more notable when the price interacts with a longer term moving average like a 200. So you would not use an EMA for a 200. You would use an MA. So yes, below the SMA 200, it's a downtrend in the weekly. Here on the daily, let's zoom in and see if there's anything that we like about it. Okay, we see higher low structure. I understand that. I don't like the failed breakout momentum from that. I don't like the inability to hold there on the throwback. And now we're kind of, it's not great. I would be very careful. I'd be very, very careful with this chart. It definitely looks like it's under attack, failing to hold on these levels that would suggest, bullish momentum and an attempt to flip the weekly trend. The weekly is a downtrend. I'd be quite careful with it. Somebody wanted me to check silver. I think I have it here. Let's take a look at silver on this chart. What is silver doing? Wow. Silver looks really good, and gold too. Gold's consolidating nicely near the range peak. That looks pre-breakout. Let's take a look at the weekly chart here in silver. And folks, I can look at equities for you. This is just having fun. Quick market update here on my YouTube, live streaming on Twitter as well. I'm happy to look at any kind of charts that you want me to do. And thank you for joining. And of course, if you're on Twitter, come to YouTube, subscribe, and you can join the chat room. To remind everybody, check out the daily dose of trading quotes. I'm making my third book completely free, so hopefully you check that out. I think you folks will enjoy that. Yeah, it's a beautiful chart. It's getting ready to test. Wow, 2011 highs. So it looked very good locally, right? What's local? Local is the most recent price action. You can say, going back to September, it's quite a bit, but you still want to zoom out and get a sense of what you're looking at. You see, okay, we see again the descending supply trend. We see the second level filter, brief failure to hold, nice break and continuation. And the price has been grinding higher. This is a very nice looking chart, a nice steady looking grind to it. It in no ways, I mean, it looks. I mean, I was going to say it in no ways looks overextended. It is essentially the entire candle above the upper Bollinger, but it's been a steady grind before this. So when you see, okay, here when you see the price riding like this, you think, okay, it could be overextended, but this is a sustained consolidation before this advance, which shows that, which gives it quite a bit of room to run. So it probably has a little bit more room to run before it would be, quote unquote, overextended in any way. Anis says, going to come back to this video. Thank you, Cheds. Thank you. I try to make every video timeless. I try to add educational value to every video. So, you have the opportunity at Bitcoin Live, of course, where I'm a founding analyst. At Bitcoin Live, you can go back and watch 7 years of videos from me. You can see how I covered major market moments. Here on YouTube, you can watch the quick market updates, kind of all the stuff, even though the prices, may have changed. The lessons are all still there, right? I'm teaching timeless lessons. Japanese candlestick theory is like 400 years old, from feudal rice lords doing futures on for futures on rice, and then classical charting, turn of the 20th century. So we're talking about stuff that's been around for a while. We're combining techniques, and even though the price has changed, there's a lot of value in going back and looking at old stuff. This is a great question. Primal says, how do you decide whether a trade is worth beer money or lunch money risk? That's an interesting question. Because this is a challenge that we often have, and I'll put it on Bitcoin while I'm talking, so you can feel like you're at home and you're looking at the chart you know and love. You want to be careful, right? Like boredom trading is one of the easiest ways to annihilate your bankroll, right? Just trading because you want to do something, and you tend to force it, and you say, okay, I want to make something happen here. So there may not be a trade. And so the question of like, oh, well, can I boredom trade with lunch money? It's only my money for lunch, right? Like, what's the big deal? I think you really just want to be really disciplined, and you want to learn to recognize what's a real opportunity and what's not. And Primal, you and I talked yesterday about muscle memory. And look, I have a large watch list because I do this for a living. I trade and I teach, and I need to cover the market. You should have probably 10, maybe 15 plays max. And these are plays you've studied, you understand their price structure, you understand what the key levels are, because the best trading opportunities come after volatility. They do not come in sideways channels. They do not come in consolidation channels. They come when there's an extreme price move. And you can use, how do you know? You can use the Bollinger Band, looking at your price extension there. You can look at examine sentiment and look for overreaction. But they come essentially when the price moves very quickly and tests an important area, when you have price interaction with a key level. So deciding, is it a beer money trade or lunch money, as you put it, the only real way, and it's a great question, the only real way you can recognize opportunity and know the value of the opportunity is by being prepared ahead of time and having strong muscle memory on whatever chart you're looking at, because you're not bouncing around between charts. You're not just playing something because one of your friends mentioned it, right? You're playing something because it's a chart you've been watching and you've been studying and preparing for, and and you understand what it means for the price to quickly drop to 88.5, right? That'd be a wonderful buying opportunity. It would not be a panicking opportunity. It'd be a panicking opportunity for other people, right? But not for you, because you're prepared. You understand that lining up with the key demand zone, confluence that, weekly MA50, just an example. So that's the way you decide, is by studying and knowing the charts ahead of time. So folks, great. Thank you for everybody who's joining and watching. Again, just a reminder, I'm going to do a Spaces later today. I'd love to have you folks join, and you can, I'd love to hear your voice. Come and ask questions. What do I think about Filecoin? So what do I think about Filecoin? I think it's kind of bottomed out. Should I bid? Says Stefanuta. I think it's a terrible chart. I actually think you should delete it from your watch list. You do not, what's the point of a bottoming chart? That's how I've lost 90% of my money, is playing charts trying to guess the bottom. This is terrible. Why would you bid this? This is a wonderful way to lose your money, is to put even $1 into a chart like this. It is a terrible chart. It's grinding lower. It's testing support. It's even if it has a minor bounce, it's probably going to continue lower. Look, Stefanuta, please, please go and watch this Masterclass technical analysis tutorial. I am here to help you. I'm here to help you avoid my old mistakes. You do not want to be playing bottoming charts and trying to guess when they reverse. Look at this weekly chart. I cannot imagine wanting to take a long in this. I think taking a long in this chart is probably one of the most efficient ways to lose your money. If you want to take a long in something, okay, you want to have an uptrend that just dip to support or dip to support, okay? Or even here, a deeper dip, okay? This is a trash chart. I don't care about the quote-unquote technology. None of that matters, right? You need to respect your money. I mean, what are we doing? If you want to take a long in Filecoin, it's at a minimum needs to clear $10, okay? It needs to bottom out. This would be a bottoming potentially, creating some type of a bottoming range. And the reason why is now you can define your risk. You can say the price has broken out above where it previously rejected. Momentum is clearly flipped. And then you can define your risk on a break of 10 or 1050, because you can say if it can't hold 970, 980, or 950 or whatnot, then my idea has failed. You would never want to jump into a bottoming chart here. I understand the thinking where you think, oh, if I just get in here, I can have an exponential gain, or I can, if I nail the bottom, or let me add here because I'm going to lower my cost basis. Trends tend to continue. This is one of the worst charts. It's almost one of the charts that I use to just talk about a bad chart, right? Jeremy says your voice is soothing. Thank you, Jeremy. Like Barry White in his prime. All right. Appreciate you, man. So, Master Killer, do you put limit orders in key levels? I do sometimes. Do I go to the 1 minute chart? No, I never go to the 1 minute chart. But this opens up a great discussion, okay? When do you drop to low time frame? What is the rule in classical charting? What is the point? Like, why? So, there are 2 times when it makes sense to drop to lower time frame, right? I'm here in the daily, which is a low time frame, but even lower would be like a 4 hour or a 1 hour. I almost never go below 1 hour, by the way, okay? Why and when do you drop to low time frame? You drop to low time frame when price interacts with the key level. In this case, it would be 100K's price zone, or after volatility. Okay, and or after volatility. So you drop to low time frame when the price is at a key level, or after volatility. So I could have, for example, I don't know that I would have a limit order at 100K, but I might have a small limit order, 96K zone, something around 88.5. And what you want to do is set an alert on your charting software or whatever your tracking software, your wallet, something that lets you know when the price gets near or close by that key level. And then you can drop to low time frame, right? You drop to 1 hour, price is coming down, you're looking for 1 hour, and now you're looking for some structure to define your risk. So you come in 1 hour, maybe it sets a low, and now it comes back and it recaptures that low. That's something you can use. This is something, for example, you can use a spring, a lower low sweep. You can define your risk and say, generally the price is at a key level on a higher time frame, daily, weekly, and now I have something to structure my risk where I have either a lost support level recaptured or a resistance level broken, suggesting that the momentum's turned around. So you drop to a low time frame at a key level, and you set up an alert or something that lets you know when the price is getting close by to a key level, and then you drop to low time frame and you strike. All right, Jeremy Kingpin, hey, what's up, man? Says my biggest mistake is I'm still holding bags with Hopium. I become a community member. And this is the thing, right? Traders, this is in my quotes book. I'm plugging this, but it's free. I'm trying to plug a free book, folks, Trading Quotes. And traders who forget to use stop losses magically transform into investors, right? You had a trading idea. Trading idea failed. You were stubborn. You didn't want to let go. And now you're an investor. Now you're a community member, right? Now you're reading the chat room, you're in the Discord room, and you're waiting for other people to tell you it's okay to keep holding because it's okay to keep holding because something's going to happen in the future. When you're in that point, if you get to that spot, you're lost, you're out. Take your money, whatever you have left, close out the trade, take a break, come back with a new idea. Every time you risk money, it needs to be with a well-defined idea. Do I ever look at pair and altcoins? Yes, but in terms of Bitcoin, right? Pretty much just Ethereum versus Bitcoin. I generally do not look at like Sol BTC or Hype BTC or Uni BTC. I study the Bitcoin chart all day, as you know. You see me tweeting it, and I know exactly what it looks like in my mind. I can close my eyes. Well, I don't want to close my mind, but I can close my eyes and I can picture it, and I get a sense of where it is in terms of price versus major peaks, price versus the MA200. So when I look at another chart, I just intuitively know if it's stronger or weaker than Bitcoin. I tend to not spend time, like I don't look at like the total market cap chart, and I generally don't look that much at dominance. And I don't recommend you do. And you don't want to create muscle memory on something you're not actually trading. So I don't look at like XPR BTC because I'm not trading, or that's Proton, right? I'm not trading like Proton Bitcoin pair. I only look at charts I may actually be trading, right? I'm not going to waste my muscle memory. So that's how I operate. That's how I recommend. And when you're trading like a /BTC pair, you're creating more variables. It could be going up because Bitcoin's going up, but faster, or it could be going down because Bitcoin, is going down, but slower. I mean, there's all these things where you're creating these two variables with the numerator and the denominator. It's a great chat today. A great group. This is part of the Quick Market Update series. On my YouTube channel, I teach professional technical analysis, Japanese candlestick theory, classical charting. My new book is out, The Trading Journal. People love it. Thank you so much for the reviews, folks. This book is why you should use a trading journal, what goes into the trading journal, emotional management, good trader habits, sample trading journals, blank entries for you to fill out. This is a workbook as well, okay? It's Trading Wisdom Part 2. And because I have that new book, my third book is free. I'm recording the entire book for free. Make sure you've watched that. Make sure you've watched, no, you don't have to, but if you know someone who's been touched by cancer, either a patient, you're a patient or a caregiver, my entire memoir is free. So check that out. Free version of Trading Wisdom, of course. Go back and watch the old Quick Market Updates. There's a lot of value, I think, in watching old updates. Thank you, Max. Max says great tips as always. Thank you. Folks, it's the Bitcoin Live sale right now. We do this once a year where you get a quarterly membership. Your first 3 months are $97, which is a ridiculous price. In my view, in my not so humble view, it's the best team in the world that studies crypto. And I've been doing market updates there every Wednesday night, Sunday night, full market report for 7 years. And for 6 years, I haven't skipped a single report. Every Wednesday, every Sunday, I'm sick, I'm traveling on vacation, doesn't matter. So this is the time to check out Bitcoin Live. I'm very active this week to celebrate the sale. And I'll be doing spaces later. I really want to hear from you folks. Great questions here in the chat room. I really appreciate you folks on Twitter as well. If I did not get to your question today, I apologize. You'll have another shot tomorrow, and you'll have a shot later today when I do spaces in Twitter. So when I do a Twitter spaces, keep an eye out for it. Join the conversation. Don't just listen, but hit that button to request to speak. And I'll bring you up, and I'd love to hear your questions. So take a look at that. And just, of course, I don't want to forget, Bing X, my favorite exchange. If you're looking for an exchange, make sure to check that out. So yeah, we talked about Bitcoin, we talked about Ethereum, we talked about Solana. I'm sorry if I didn't get your questions. I'll try to do it next time, either with the spaces or tomorrow in the stream. So let's finish this up with a little bit of Church of Eight Wheels, my favorite song to jam out to. And folks, I really appreciate you. I hope you know that. So here we go. Appreciate you folks. Cheds love.